Oh, hello. I'm see you next time. Fancy seeing you here. Well, I say seeing, but considering I'm just a disembodied voice synthesized from a series of external percussive and internal bioelectrical signals in the auditory cortex of your temporal lobe, perhaps seeing is the wrong turn of phrase.
How do you turn a phrase?
God, you're dumb. Thank God for that ass. Now come here and kiss me.
Thank God for that ass indeed. Anyway, as I was saying, fancy seeing you here. Well, I say here, but let's not get into all that again. Today we're exploring r/am I terribly awful, where we get to judge the behaviour of strangers and, if we're lucky, we can feel hella smug about it and thankful it's not us, winky face. Let's take a look at what Reddit's got for us today.
This one's from Katricken is a badass. Am I terribly awful for asking my partner to start 1 hour later to work tomorrow? So we recently moved to my country. It's been a long journey with all the paperwork, permits, and the moving, etc. I, a 30-year-old female, am handling most of the paperwork because my partner, 36 male, is not fluent in my language yet, which is understandable. It's a pain to learn a language as an adult. We need to pass a tech inspection for both cars to get them a native license plate. I've been trying for a long time to find the steps that we need to take, and I finally started the process. To do the inspection, I need to drive almost an hour, a few minutes away from where my partner works. He can't do the inspection because of the language, and that's normal. I have no idea about cars, and it scares me, but I am handling it. The other day, he crashed his car in a small accident. These things happen. And the insurance is being a dick about it, despite it all being covered, so he's taking my car to work. It's annoying because we live in the middle of nowhere and I am disabled, so I need the car to do everything. I've been asking him to push the insurance, that's in his language, so he deals with it, to get a replacement car, but since he's not the one carless, he's not doing it. I speak his language, but not in a native level, so I don't dare to call the insurance myself. Tomorrow, I wanted to drive with him to work so I could take my car to the inspection. I will take his once the garage fixes it, but it will take weeks. Normally, people at his job start between 7 and 8 a.m, but he likes starting at 6, so he's alone and it's more quiet. The inspection place doesn't open until much later, so I asked him if he could start at 7 instead, so I would need to wait less time for it. He got really upset about it because he liked starting at 6. I tried to explain to him that it felt very unfair that I'm dealing with everything, and the only thing I'm asking him to do is to start a little bit late to work. He refused, and now he's not speaking to me. I feel so unappreciated. I've been working really hard the last few months to get all the papers with barely any help. I'm terrified of driving. I have never passed that inspection, and I'm disabled, so driving there and standing while they look at the car is difficult for me, as well as spending hours in the car waiting until they open. I don't mind doing it, but I feel that it's very unfair that the only thing I've asked him to do is to work a bit later, and he's not doing it. Am I terribly awful here? So, obviously you're not in the wrong here. Your husband is. And he's been a right little flip weasel to boot. Why is he so set on getting into work at 6 a.m? Definitely seems shady to me. Perhaps he's running a secret people trafficking cabal and needs a quiet hour at dawn to get through the endless paperwork that comes with this sort of thing. Or perhaps he's feeling emasculated because his wife, who knows precious little about cars, is dealing with both your vehicles by herself. Pretty sure it's one of those two options. Either way, I'll consider him about 60% prison pocket.
This one's from Sardoodledom Autism.
Am I terribly awful for not replacing gifts I gave to my nephew that my sister-in-law objected to? My nephew is a huge soccer fan. I was in Mexico City for business recently, so picked up 2 Mexican national team soccer jerseys for him, in home and away colours. With the upcoming World Cup, Both of these were the new design and very well made. I planned to give them to him for his birthday around Halloween, but we'll be out of town again at the end of the month, so gave them to my brother early to pass along. He was very grateful. He said my nephew would love them. This weekend, my wife came home from their house with both jerseys. Apparently, my sister-in-law confronted her with the items. She showed me how there was a microscopic hole on the bottom of one and some loose stitching on the sleeve of the other. My wife was embarrassed and said she could fix them, but that was deemed unacceptable. My sister-in-law wants them both replaced. I was hurt. I'm not going to fly back to Mexico, and I'm not going to spend $200 to order new jerseys online. I don't want to disappoint my nephew, so repairing the imperfections seems like the best plan. But my wife said my sister-in-law will refuse them again. Am I terribly awful for not buying new gifts and repairing the slight imperfections in the ones I've already purchased?
What the actual cookery book is wrong with people? It appears that you've gone out of your way to buy your nephew a lovely little gift, something with love, care and thought behind it. I'm going to go with my gut and assume you didn't deliberately pick out damaged goods to wind them up, and by the sounds of it, these are minor defects one might often see in clothing. It's weird enough that your sister-in-law brought up the imperfections to you in the first place, but it's downright nuts that she expects you to replace them. I can sort of envisage a situation where she wouldn't be quite such an unpleasant person if she sort of gently inquired if you'd be able to return them to the store and get replacements that way, and then jumped at your wife's offer to fix them herself, but it sounds like that is not the case. If I were in your shoes, I'd be telling it exactly which body cavity to stick those jerseys in. Thus, this is my decree. She can shove 40% of those jerseys into her body cavity.
This one's from Top Abby's 9056. Am I terribly awful for being angry that my friend has new friends and has changed completely? Look, I'm a teen, and literally ever since I was 2 or 3, Mandy has been my absolute best friend. I can't think of a time in my life she wasn't there for me, and vice versa. I never needed any other friends because I had her, and that was enough for me. I can't explain how close we are. Well, about a year ago, her dad took a job in Brazil somewhere, and she moved away. Now I keep seeing her on social media with 30 billion friends, and she barely texts me when she used to text me every day. Look, I get that we don't see each other every day like we have our entire lives so far. But shit, one day she invited me to join her friends on a call, and it was horrible. First, because I couldn't understand 90% of what they said in Spanish. Second, because at one point they started talking about school, and straight up kicked me out of the call without even acknowledging it. I confronted her about it, and she got angry, saying I'm being selfish, and said she doesn't need me anymore, and some other things that were pretty hurtful, to be honest. I get it, to be honest, I just miss my friend. Am I terribly awful for this?
Oh, mate, I'm feeling for what you're going through, I really am. I normally try to avoid posts from younger people, but I wanted to do this one. It seems like you've come to a parting of the ways with your closest friend. Essentially, it's like breaking up with a romantic partner, and the hardest breakups are almost like a bereavement. There can be a lot of pain in there, and it's even harder when you feel like it's kind of one-sided, like their pain doesn't seem to match your own, and it can leave you questioning that relationship. But know this, people process things in different ways, and this may simply be Mandy's way of handling things to cause herself the least amount of distress. Whatever the situation, this seems to mark an end to a chapter in your story, not the end of it. That's not to say you won't reconnect with Mandy, just that this is the beginning of an opportunity to move forward with your life. I hate that I'm about to talk about your age, but it is necessary, I think. At 16, you might feel like your world is shattering around you, but I promise that in time, the hurt you're experiencing will soften, and you'll be able to look back and see what emerges. And at this age, there's so much time for new people to come into your life, as well as reconnecting with the old. Whatever part Mandy plays in your life in the future, this is one of those life experiences that can only offer you an opportunity to grow and to understand yourself better.
This one's from Late Statement 8422. Am I terribly awful for treating my adopted children the same as my biological child? I'm a 44-year-old man, and my wife Amy, who's 43, have a biological son, Ethan, 16, and an adopted son and daughter, Aidan and Gracie, 16 and 12. We adopted them 10 years ago. We have been talking about colleges for a while with the boys, and they both want to stay together wherever they go. We have college funds for all 3 children with the same amount in, so they will be able to afford to go if they decide to. My mother died and left me a lot of money, and I use it to fund their accounts, as I thought this was more important than paying off our mortgage that we are comfortably paying each month. The more the boys talk about college, the more Amy gets upset with how much money it's going to cost. This all ended up in a huge argument between us, with her calling me terribly awful. She apparently is happy to fund Ethan's college, but only part for Aidan and Gracie. I told her that this isn't fair, as they are all our kids, not just Ethan. He doesn't mean more just because he has our DNA. I told her it was my inheritance and I can do what I want with it, and I wanted to make sure the kids had a good start to life. She said that she deserves stuff too, and me spending all the money on the kids means she doesn't get what she wants. She left a few days ago, and I haven't heard anything from her. I thought the kids didn't hear the fight, but today Aidan came down and said sorry for causing a fight between us, and that he is grateful that I stood up for him and Gracie. My heart went out for him, and I said that I will always stand up for him, and that I loved him and Gracie. He said, I know, but I'm not sure about Mum. So am I terribly awful? Should I compromise a bit to keep Amy happy?
The OP has provided some background details here.
The adoption was her idea, as it was her cousin and his wife that were losing custody of the kids. Sadly, they are no longer with us and haven't contributed to their upbringing at all. I work full-time and pay all the mortgage and bills. She works part-time just for something to do. She keeps her money. This was agreed and is not an issue. I have explained in another comment the situation. The house is in my name, as I inherited it from my grandfather. I took out a mortgage to remodel when we adopted the kids. All 3 kids are in therapy. Ethan doesn't necessarily need it, but he felt he was missing out on something, so he goes too. They have group and separate therapy, which was recommended to us. Amy left a few days ago. She is safe with her sister, but has not contacted us in any way. I hoped she would at least contact the kids, but no. I don't think I can be with her anymore, as I can't see how she can repair the relationship with the kids. I think her coming back now will be detrimental to their well-being, and it's something I can't risk. In no way will I abandon Amy though. I love her with all my heart, and if there is something going on that I don't know about, then she needs help, and her family abandoning her is going to cause more harm than good. I am willing to support her, but not be a couple at the moment. If it's just that she is greedy and selfish, then she can forget about having any kind of relationship with me. I guess I'll find out in the next few months. Also, I don't think of Ethan as my biological son and Aidan and Gracie as my adopted children. They are all my kids. Biological and adopted aren't words I use day to day when describing my children. My post was worded this way to make it easier for people to understand. I thought this would have been obvious, but according to the messages I've been getting, apparently not. Thank you for all your comments. I knew I was in the right, but sometimes you just need a stranger to say it and point out some things that you've missed.
And here's an update on what's happened since the original post.
Update. Amy asked me to meet her without the kids, so I did. She said she was sorry about trying to get the money spent on her. I explained that we could do all the stuff she wanted to, within reason, just not out of their funds. She admitted that she was wrong and that I am not terribly awful. However, she doesn't want any help from me. She is aware that she has issues, but wouldn't tell me what. I said that I would do anything she needs, but she wasn't interested. She did say that she hates that Ethan is so close to Aidan, and it was ruining her child. Obviously, I will never tell either of the boys that, and it did prove to me that Aidan and Gracie may be her problem. She is moving to Canada to live with her mum. I don't care what she gets up to there. She didn't want to have any more contact with the children, didn't even want to say goodbye, so I let her go.
Wow. This one is pretty nuts. Clearly, Amy has developed some serious regrets about the impact adopting her young cousins has had on her life. And that in itself is perhaps not remarkable. People are allowed to have feelings after all. But this situation reached another level. But you know what? I was all set to lay into Amy here for being a terrible person, incredibly selfish, and essentially being abusive to her adopted children. But looking at the details, and popping my armchair psychiatrist hat on once again, it seems like she's desperately mentally unwell. While that doesn't mean her behaviour was acceptable, and it absolutely was not, it does mean that there are some mitigating factors. After all, it's no small thing for a mother to prioritise buying cars and holidays for herself over a college education for her children, let alone just leaving for days without contact. To land on effectively abandoning 3 kids and a husband and skipping the country is surely a tale of being completely overwhelmed and taking a metaphorical freight train to the brain. The kids are fortunate to have a father who can be so present, supportive and loving that he's able to centre those kids and partially shield them from the emotional trauma that their mother's actions have left behind. So because of all that, I'm not going to drop a rating on this one, but I will say that the OP gets 100% platinum star, good job, well done, rad dad sticker in my book.
And once again, we've reached the end of the video. A time to consider, a time to reflect, a time to wonder where your life went, a time to plaster on a smile and face the day head on. Why not like, comment and subscribe? Why not lead a bloodthirsty, religiously motivated crusade through the heathen lands of the earth? Why not click the little bell icon? Perhaps watch some of my other videos and share them with your friends. And I'll bet you have loads of friends. And remember, most importantly, it's not a crime if you don't get caught.
See you
Next
time.